Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Last to Read Book Club. We're here with the lovely Ellie Marney to talk about, we've both got it ready, every word. Last month, we were on Mel's channel talking about Every Breath. Hopefully, a few of you are joining us. I know a couple of our friends were reading along. That's my phone letting me know that we are live.
Well, at least we know that we are
Yeah, at least we know that we're live and that people can hear us. So that's always nice.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, maybe we'll just start with a little bit of an introduction and wait for a couple more people to join us and all that sort of good stuff. Okay, so I think by now everyone here knows who Mel and I are. We're on each other's channel
for sure
every week. Yeah.
It's just nice to be here.
So I don't know if you want to introduce yourself.
Me?
Yes.
You want me to introduce myself? Yes?
Yes.
I can do that. Okay, so I am Ellie Marney. I am a author of about 10 novels now. 9 published novels, and the 10th one comes out next year. So I'm the author of the Every series. I also wrote a bunch of other stuff, including White Knight and No Limits, and None Shall Sleep.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
I have prepared.
The American paperback came out today. So
awesome.
yeah, that's complete buzz. So that's the book that I published most recently. It came out last year. And I have a new book coming out next year called The Killing Code. And and I was just rereading some of Every Word because it's just been ages since I read the book all the way through. And it was like, oh wow, it was a bit like a blast from the past to be reading that book again, I have to say.
Yeah, I felt the same. I have I think I got it just as it came out because and I must have been reading it because I have a little note from you saying, hope you like the ending. So clearly I hadn't finished. So that was kind of nice to like open that and see it before I'd started rereading and think to myself, oh no.
Oh God, what happened?
Yeah, I was like, oh no. I can't
remember you might have been at the launch, or you might have been either at that launch or at another launch, and we met up. I remember seeing you at Dimmicks one night for an event, and I think it was, I don't know if it was that event, but
I think
that's how we first met.
Yeah,
with
my friend Bryony was there as well.
Yeah. Yep. I remember.
Yeah. And then we were at the Every Move as well.
Yes. And I know you'd come a long way, and I'd come a long way because I live out in the country. So I'm a couple of hours north of Melbourne, up near Castlemaine. So I am at home now. So excuse there's a few random things on this is my son's bedroom. So he's got the best bedroom for Wi-Fi receptions. So that's why I'm in here.
Fair enough. You have to excuse the cat in the background.
Yeah, we're just about to be joined by
Have you got a cat?
We both have cats. Mine is the one screaming in the background.
Mine is the one that's going to go and come and show himself on camera.
Hi, Percy.
Oh, hello. What's your cat's name?
This one's Percy. And then I have another one named Fletcher. He's very sooky and he loves to be on.
And Percy's obviously just going to sit there and,
He's got a bit of a fan club going. So.
Mel, what's the name of your cat?
Well, the one that my partner is bringing along, this is Peanut. That's Rowan, also my partner. And this is Peanut. Her who loves to be upside down.
Not that much, clearly.
Not that much. No.
Of course.
And then we have we have Pistachio and Shade as well. But
nice.
Peanut basically, like, Rowan enters the room and Peanut starts yelling at him. And then he has to pick her up and then she's like, okay, I'm done now. You know.
I'm like the one in my household that gets chased around by the animals who need to be fed. So we don't have cats, we have a dog. So I'm not sure. We're just checking the Wi-Fi now. I'm on your Wi-Fi. Sorry. Yes. I'm actually live right now on YouTube. There's the constant arguing over who gets to use which Wi-Fi in the house. Yeah, we have a dog. We don't have cats because we're out in the country, so you can't really have cats out here. You have to keep them penned. But we have a very old dog who is, I don't know, she's quite old now. She's like nearly 14. And I'm the person that she chases around if, she wants to get fed. So she's always coming up to me. But she's, she's very elderly now. She's a lovely old lady, and she's mostly blind and deaf. So she just kind of comes up and kind of bumps her head against you until you give her something to eat.
Yeah. Poor little thing.
Okay. I think we had some questions. Mel, did you want to start with yours?
I didn't write them down.
Hang on, you're breaking up just a little bit there.
Is that better? Is that okay? Oh.
What?
Sorry, everyone. We are just... Ellie's having some issues with her internet.
That's okay. We can... Percy will
entertain. Is there anyone actually here?
There are two people, but I don't know.
Woo! I can't
if you're
see.
Here, if you're here, let us know.
Yeah, say hello and shout out some questions. Sorry, no, I can't tell on my. That's why I was like,
so it's like
when I'm the one.
I know it's so weird that you can't see.
Yeah, when it's not on your channel,
I guess as well. Like, it's very strange.
But yeah, please do comment and let us know if you have any questions for Ellie, any comments, any thoughts on.
I think
Yay, she's back.
Yeah.
Out there for a minute.
Are you?
That's okay.
You're frozen. Are you good?
Oh no, there we go.
There we go. We got you. So I wanted to say, first of all, I
can see you, but I can't hear you very well at all.
Oh, okay. I don't know if there's a way we can. I don't know if I switch to my computer rather than my. Does that help? Hello?
It sounds about the same for me.
Okay. I wasn't sure if maybe.
That's okay. So give me your thoughts. We haven't actually talked about this. Like last time we had chatted a little bit about how you're feeling about Every Breath before we went into the live show. And this time we didn't really.
Other things. I love this. I'm loving this series. I'm really intrigued to see what's going to happen. Because obviously at the end we get like quite a kind of clue for the next one. But I just was really, I'm just really, I'm really enjoying it. I think I messaged you as I was reading it, and I was like, oh my God, all of this London is amazing stuff is making me, it really, honestly, it felt so like how I felt when I first went to London. Now, obviously, I didn't go to London
in a murder case, but
I didn't go to London I wasn't involved in a murder case. I wasn't chasing my boyfriend across the world, desperately concerned for his mental health. So it was a very different circumstance, but I still just remember being like, oh my God, like I'm in London, like this is a real place. Like, because you read about it in so many books and, see it in so many shows and stuff. And it's like, I don't know, my brain just doesn't let me kind of understand like this is a real thing. And then I went there obviously and I was like, oh my God, this is a real place.
And I think
really
it does feel really like real, right? Like it really feels like London.
And I could really relate to the emotions that were going on just around that. And I was probably a bit older, but I was significantly younger than I am now when I first went. So I was like, I mean, I was a bit older than her, but I was still very much like that kind of, like what inexperience.
I think I went, I'm trying to think when this was published.
I'm just holding this up like.
This is very hard to do with you there, Pers. 2014. I went to London for the first time in 2015.
Oh, wow.
So I'd actually read, I read this before I went to London.
Oh, cool.
So I think that reading it this time was such a different experience because now I actually, like, I'd always wanted to go to London. And I wasn't that much older than Rachel. I was 19, turning 20 when I went to London. So
your experiences were really similar.
Yeah.
Obviously, barring the murder.
Barring the the murder investigation and all that kind of stuff. But if we ignore that, it was like my first trip overseas by myself, and kind of like with my family, we'd gone to like New Zealand and places like that. So it was such a different experience. Here's Ellie again.
Oh my God, I'm back.
You're back.
Is it the sound better?
Yeah, it's much better.
Can you hear us? Oh, good.
Good. We were just talking about London.
Oh, have you been? What were you saying?
I was just saying that I actually went to London in 2015, so the year after having read every word. So I hadn't been before. So we were just talking about how different my experience was to Mel's.
When did you go, Mel?
We were talking. I went in 2005, so 10 years before Ellie did.
Yes. Yeah. And a totally different vibe.
Yes. Yeah. And we were saying about her obviously barring murder investigations and chasing down, very mentally not very well boyfriend. We were just saying how it felt very authentic, like the way that Rachel describes her experiences of being in London, and we felt very similar. Just the idea of, oh my God, we actually left Australia and this is real, and especially because London is so iconic and you see it in so many movies, you read about it in so many books, to actually go there and be able to have that experience of this isn't a fictional place, this is an actual place.
I think I mean, look, I went to London the year that I just handed in the manuscript for Every Breath, and I got a chance to go, and I could only go for a really short time because I still had young children then. And my partner and I took off, and I had all of the feelings that Rachel has, on the plane. And I kept these, I took extensive notes while I was traveling there and while we were walking around London and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of the feelings that she has and a lot of the, the impressions that she gets were just me were just directly from my own experience of what it was like, because I hadn't been to the UK before. I'd done most of my traveling in Asia before then. So I'd been, I spent a long time in Indonesia and lived in India for a while and lived in Singapore for a long time. And but the UK was a completely different experience, traveling experience. So yeah, and I was completely in love with it. I would go back in a heartbeat.
We were saying that it just made us want to go back so much.
Yeah. I messaged Ellie and I was like, oh my God, I just want to go back to England now.
I remember, when we went, it was like something, it was really like Monopoly. You play Monopoly and you hear about Oxford Street and the Tower, and it's got Park Lane and all of those places like that, and seeing them was just like, oh wow, I'm walking around in a real live Monopoly board.
I really loved when that Rachel says that in the book, because I had the same feeling. I was like, oh my God, I had exactly the same thought when I was there. It's like, I'm in Monopoly.
I know, although I think I had the weirdest tour of the UK. We only went to London and to the area around London. So I think I had the weirdest tour of London of any tourist who's ever been. I'm sure. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe I'm not the only person who's gone to London to tour the mortuary and look for murder locations and places like that. But that's what I did. They were one of the first things that I did was actually go to the Westminster mortuary and tour around there.
Wow.
And that was really cool, actually. That was one of the coolest things I did in London.
I remember I think it was at the Every Move launch that you were talking about this, and it was like, I wrote it down as a question because I was like, everyone else needs to hear about this, because that, I don't know why, but the fact that you did that stuck in my mind for all these years.
It was really, well, no, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, how did you arrange that? What did you just kind of say? I'm an author.
No, it was really weird. Because when I was in Melbourne, I had tried to get permission to go and visit the Victorian Institute of Forensic Medicine in Melbourne. Because when I was writing Every Breath, I actually did need to kind of have a bit of an idea. Well, I sort of thought, it'd be really good if I could see the inside of VIFM. And so I contacted them and said, look, I'm an author. Here's my official author card. I didn't really have a card. I had a letter from my publisher saying, yes, this person is legit. She's not like some weirdo who wants to look at forensic suites. And I said, I just emailed them and asked them if I could get permission, even just to get into the foyer and talk to somebody on staff.
Yeah.
And then they emailed me back to gracefully decline. But what they forgot to do was, like, they actually tagged me in the email chain.
Oh no.
So below this very kind, thank you very much for your inquiry, but we don't think we can do that at this present time, blah, blah, blah. Below that was somebody else's email saying, can you please get rid of this person?
No.
Oh, okay. And then when I went to London, I was thinking, oh, look, I'm going to try and give it a shot, one of the things I have learned as an author is, if you want to go to a location, if you want to interview somebody, if you want to see something that is sort of falls outside the usual, and it's something that you sort of think you're kind of nervous about attempting, you have to give it a shot. You have to try. And we're in London. We were only there for 10 days, and I was like, if I don't at least try to get permission to see the Westminster mortuary, I am just going to be kicking myself all the way home, So I found out that I did made some inquiries before I left, and I found out that the mortuary isn't controlled by, like, I thought it would be part of like the Department of Health, like it is part of the Department of Health and related like police services here in Australia. But it's not like that in London. It's actually part of like the garbage collection department.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
So you have to contact the people who do like all the garbage collection in London and ask them if you can get permission to go. And they said, I contacted them by phone and they said yes. And they said, but we can't give the permission. You have to receive permission from the person at the Westminster Mortuary. And the only way to do that was for me to write a letter, like hand write a letter and hand deliver it. So I actually had to hand deliver the letter before they would give me permission to go. And so I did that. I went and I dressed nicely and went in and I actually think that this is a strategy designed to weed out the strange, slightly gothic obsessed people who just want to see inside the mortuary. Like they must just look at you, and somebody obviously looked at me and thought, oh yeah, she looks legit. So so I received an email the following morning saying that yes, I could come in and visit the mortuary. So yeah, it was a very circuitous kind of process to get permission to go and do this. And then when I went in, I got to interview. I interviewed one of the autopsy and pathology technicians, and we sat in the little staff area, which is like where all the staff sit to have their cups of tea and stuff like that during their breaks. And then she took me on a tour of the forensic suite, which was comparatively new at that time in London. They'd had the mortuary had shifted premises, and they'd been given a lot of money by the government to make this specialty forensic suite for police investigations. But sitting in that little break room, having cups of tea with this lady while she's talking about the processes of autopsy, and while you're looking at, like there's all these different types of tea on the shelf because everybody likes something different. And then at some point while we were chatting, one of the guys came in because we couldn't go initially. That's why we were sitting in the break room, because there was actually an autopsy in process. So they couldn't take me into the autopsy suite at that time. So we had to wait until the autopsy was complete. And then the fellow who was completing the autopsy was another autopsy and pathology technician. He came kind of breezing into the break room at the end to let her know that the suite was now unoccupied and that she could bring me in. And he he said there was a big whiteboard on the wall with all these like little code word markers, I guess. And then he said something like, okay, so I've finished with Mr. So-and-so, because they don't call people by a number or anything like that. They try to make it very personal. So he's like, oh, I've finished with Mr. So-and-so. And I just wanted to let you know that I've had to put his brain in the specimen jar for follow-up examination. And so I've tucked it in the fridge in the back of such and such, like I've tucked it on the back shelf of the fridge in the autopsy suite. So I just want to let you know about that. So yes, so you don't forget Mr. So-and-so's brain in the back shelf in the autopsy suite. And the lady I was with was just like, oh yes, okay. So that was obviously a very day-to-day
normal conversation, really.
Absolutely. And I was just like trying very hard not to laugh or gasp, It was just slightly surreal. And he was still in his scrubs as well. So it did make it feel, there was this weird juxtaposition between this very homey kind of break room and
all the tea lined up.
Yeah, and all the teas lined up, and the slightly manky carpet, and the soft cushions on the couch and stuff. We were just sitting there chatting, and then he comes in with his scrubs and talks about brains. So it was a very surreal kind of experience.
I can imagine. Is that the strangest thing that you've done in research? In the name of research? Mm.
Yeah.
Well, we did another weird thing, which is we went out to, there's the scene in Every Word where they go and visit the site of a car crash, and they're kind of investigating. They're walking up and down the side of the road to see what's happened there, and Mycroft gets very affected by the vehicle that's left behind.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent a lot of time on Google Maps trying to figure out an appropriate location for that car crash, because I wanted it to be someplace where people would know. And so we ended up taking a train out to this little hamlet just outside of London. And then I had this vague kind of idea of where I wanted to go. And then we just got a cab, and the cab driver kind of drove us through all these twisty little lanes out to the back of these houses. And we found the spot, which is right near these big fields, with these hedgerows, the English style hedgerows. So there's me walking up and down on the side of the road with my notepad, taking notes and snapping pictures, and my partner and the taxi driver were talking, and the taxi driver was like, "What is she doing?" Like, did you lose something? I mean, did you have a crash here? Are you checking this place out for insurance? And then my partner was like, "No, she's a writer and she has to do these weird things."
Funny you should mention that, though, because she is.
Yeah.
Not for the reason you would think.
I know. It was really quite weird. And the taxi driver was like, writer, okay. Weird, but okay,
I'm sure that's not the strangest thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure especially in London, I'm sure he's seen some weird things.
I'm sure the taxi drivers have copped just about everything over there. They seem to have inexhaustible supplies of patience.
Yeah.
I guess that was, the trip to London and the research that I did for Every Word is probably some of the weirdest things that I've done for research. I've contacted the FBI. That was kind of weird. I did that for Financial Sleep. I got in touch with them via email, and also talked to a friend who used to work in what do they used to call it? I don't know. It's kind of like a euphemism for being a spy. And he worked as like a liaison, what they call a cultural liaison. Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah,
That's
so that's
very
kind
cool.
of like that was like an Australian term, and I think they have that term in other countries too, where you say, "Oh, I'm a military attaché," or "I'm a cultural liaison," and what they really mean is, "Oh, this person is a spook." Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So he gave me some advice about how to get in touch with the FBI, and then another friend who how do I know all of these weird friends? From when I was living in Indonesia. My partner was over there. He was working as a consultant, like a local consultant for a lot of private security firms in Jakarta at that time. And Indonesia was going through basically civil uprising at that time. So there were a lot of people from a lot of different agencies working there, and we met quite a few people there. And we still keep in touch with a couple of them. And so I contacted this friend who'd worked in that industry, and asked him a little bit about how to make explosives from household items. And he was like, "You're not going to publicize my name in this book or anything, are you?" And I was like, "No, almost definitely not do that."
Wow.
I don't want to put you out of business or anything.
That's incredible. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I really want to for my next book, I've just spent a bit of time doing a lot of research into shooting with rifles. And I actually don't have a lot of personal experience shooting guns. So I think for my next book, I'm really hoping if lockdown lifts in Melbourne sometime soon, that I can get out and get some experience at a gun range, so that I can. I mean, it would just be a cool thing to do anyway.
Yeah.
Just to check it out. And yeah, I really kind of do need to know how it is, like what's the feeling of shooting a rifle. And I've got a few other crime author friends I know who've gone to gun ranges, especially if they travel in the States, and just tried out lots of different weapons, just to give them a bit of an understanding of what the feeling is like, so that you can write it accurately. But yeah, that's the next weird thing that I'm hoping to do.
We'll keep an eye out.
There's a couple of gun ranges in Melbourne. I was really surprised. I didn't think there would be anything.
Yeah, I have heard that.
Yeah. There's a couple like right in the middle of Melbourne. Wow. So, and I mean, I know a few people up here in the country who have guns, or have rifles, to shoot foxes and things like that. But they're not the kind of hunting rifles that I need to know about. So I don't know. I'll see what happens and report back.
That's something. Good, I don't know. As a person who likes to write a little bit of stuff on the side every now and then, I like the process of having to do that kind of research is not something. When you think about an author, you think about a writer, or you fantasize as a kid about being a writer, if you were anything like me. You don't imagine like going to gun ranges or like doing any of these things. Is that something that a thing that authors across the board that do, or is that more specific to genre? Or
I think something I have noticed when I'm talking with other writer friends at the moment is that one of the reasons why lockdown has been so hard is for writers. Writers are really used to spending a lot of time alone, and they're really used to wanting actually a bit more, like, to be cut off from the world a little bit so that they can just do their work. I don't know if you've ever watched that show Alone that was on SBS.
No.
It's about they take like 10 people who've got some experience living off the land and kind of doing survivalisty type things, and they give them I think they have like 15 items that they're allowed to bring with them from an approved list. I think it's between 10 and 15 items, something like that. And then everyone gets like a sleeping bag and a couple of other things. Anyway, they drop each of them in this isolated location up close on the north western side of the States, I think, up near Canada. And it's like on an island, and they're all geographically isolated from each other, and they have to survive for as long as possible with just this equipment that they have. And they have no contact with anybody. So they don't have a film crew or anything like that with them. They actually are given like a trunk full of GoPros, and they have to film themselves.
Wow.
For the duration of the time that they're there. Oh, and they get like a bug out key. So if they press this button, they get airlifted out, but that's it. They don't get to go back. So, you can quit at any time. And there's wild animals. There's like bears and cougars and, and some of the landscapes are really, really inhospitable. So they all have to cope alone. And every writer I know has been like, when do I get to sign up for this? Like, I just want to be on my own.
Sounds perfect.
I would ace this show.
I would write a best-selling book, and I would get all this money.
That's right. I would win the show, and I would get my novel written.
Yeah.
So you would think that you would think that writers would just totally love the whole lockdown thing. But actually, you know, a lot of being a writer, I think, is about getting input, you know, like having experiences, seeing sights, feeling emotions that allow you to translate that your own experience into something on the page. So I think it's for a lot of the writers that I know, it hasn't just been, I'm stuck in my house on my own. Yeah, this is great. Or I'm stuck in my house with my small children, which is really tough. But also, I just am seeing the same things and doing the same things and having the same experiences every single day, you know? And so that has been one of the reasons why a lot of the writers that I know have really struggled. And I'm no exception. I have had the same problems. And the research, like the gun thing, you know, that I would like to do, all of that stuff is just completely out of my reach at the moment. So I'm kind of confined to just researching on the internet. And I've been spending a lot of time on YouTube trying to absorb as much information as possible about whatever it is that I need to know about. Yeah.
But
it has been really, really big.
There's a big difference between watching someone shoot a gun and actually, like you were saying, knowing what that kickback's going to do or what the feel of that particular grip is. Or
that's right.
I'm also just thinking when we all meet up as, you know, you, me, and Lana, we should go to a gun range now.
Oh God, what a concept! That scares me a lot.
I mean, I think it's a really weird thing too for Australian readers to think about, like, because it's so alien to us. You know, the idea of even getting access to a gun is almost like, I mean, I'm out in the country where a lot more people have weapons, you know, for pest control out here and for feral animal control. And I couldn't even tell you like I would really be searching to find somebody that I know who has like a quality rifle that I could use to get that experience from. I mean, I'd have to really ask around. So it's very, very different. But
people in the States are like, what do you mean you don't know what a gun feels?
I know. But look, honestly, I have to say that the research that I did for Every Word is some of the funnest research that I think I've ever done for writing a book. It was a real joy, and I got to go to the Derby Championships, the roller derby championships in Melbourne. So that was super cool.
That was really cool. I loved that bit as well.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
We've been joined by
I had
Lana.
never been to a roller derby match before, and hi.
Yeah, Lana said
and
hi.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is that about Alone? He was on it last.
I think so.
That's what she was.
Yeah.
Amazing. Look, I would totally love to have a go at that show. I don't know if I'd be any good, but you know, I'd like to give it a shot.
I was just imagining Mel and I on this show. I don't think we'd last like
no.
Lana maybe, but the two of us absolutely not.
No. Like the idea of it, like, oh yeah, I just hang out and read books and write some stuff. And then I'm like, wait, do I have internet access?
You do not have internet.
So no, like, because I like have this lovely theory that I just hang out and read books, but I'm online like all the time, you know, like I message Ellie all the time.
Wouldn't work out like that.
No, I don't think.
I would just take notebooks. I think I would probably weigh down my pack with like heaps and heaps of notebooks and writing implements. Like
your 15 things would just be notebooks and pencils.
It would just be like, here's 10 notebooks and 5 pencils or something like that. I probably would not last because I don't know. I mean, there's a big difference between researching a topic and actually being able to do it, you know. Like I'll probably absorb enough information to be able to produce a good facsimile on the page of someone who's experienced with rifles. But that won't make me, like a world-class rifle shooter or anything like that. I'll be a long way from that. But yeah, Mel, I think you're right. I think we all, have these dreams about what it's like being a writer when we're young. I had those dreams too. I grew up wanting to be a writer. And yeah, I think you think about the stories, but you don't really think about the research at all. It wasn't something I thought about when I was pondering the idea in school.
I have to say the editing definitely didn't factor into my brain.
Editing.
You just write the story and then that's it,
And then that's all you have to do.
But
yeah, editing's a real thing. I mean, it's a completely different mindset. You have to kind of stop thinking about your story as an artistic creation and start thinking about it in terms of how can you craft it into something that people will like to read, apart from just me. I have really enjoyed creating this, but now, I have to make it into something that other people will enjoy as well. And that my editors are always saying to me, can we make this more obvious on the page? It's like, because, part of me is like, oh, well, I understand the character completely. I don't need to write down what he or she is experiencing it. I don't need to put in their emotional response, because to me, it seems obvious what their emotional response is on the page. But my editors are often saying, no, actually, you need to give us a few cues about that. We're not like mind readers.
Did you have another question, Mel? I think you've actually answered mine, because mine were what research did you do? Can you talk about the killing code? Because I'm very excited for it.
Oh, yes, I spent all day with the killing code today, actually, because we are in the process of completing the edits for that book, and it's about to go to copy edits. And we're just getting to the stage now where we've done all of the big structural stuff that's done and dusted, and we've corrected anything that anything that had a ripple effect because of our structural changes, and then we've cleaned it up really nicely, and then we've trimmed away all of the excess, and now we're getting to the point where we're just kind of snipping. It's like turning into bonsai now, where you just snip little bits here and little bits there and little bits there. And that never stops, by the way. You still want bonsaiing after it's gone, right up until
after it's been published, everything.
Yeah.
I remember my copy editor for Every Breath is this amazing woman called Hillary, who still works with Alan and Unwin. And she gave me some advice when we were doing the editing for Every Breath. And I was like, oh, I want to keep snipping. And she's like, the editing process only stops on the day that you send it to print. She said, you will continue to want to edit right up until the day when you send it off. So, and then even after, you'll be like, but that bit.
Can I just get it back, please?
Yeah. And she's like, no, cannot do it anymore. It has gone to print. It's over. So I by that stage, you've read the manuscript literally tens and tens of times, or sometimes hundreds of times, and I feel like I've read the killing code in its entirety many times. And I still sat down today and did snipping, and I still ended up going through the whole manuscript again. Once you kind of get into a rhythm with it, if you know what editing's like, that you get into a rhythm with it and you just don't want to stop. So Yes, that book is going to be a lot of fun. I don't know what I can say about it. I've got a synopsis up on my website to give people a bit of an understanding of what's going to happen with it. It's set in 1943. There are code-breaking girls, and there is a murder mystery, and there's romance, and so which is different from None Shall Sleep, because there was only a hint of romance in that book. So this is much more full-on romance, returning to my roots with Every Breath, which was very, very romantic. And so it was kind of nice to go back into that headspace again where I could be romantic. None Shall Sleep had a completely different structure, and it was not a type of structure that really left enough room for romance on the page. It would have slowed everything down, and taken the story in a really different direction. So I let that one go, and but it was nice to go back to writing a little bit of romance with the Killing Code again. It was like, oh, this is nice.
I think everyone will be excited, because last time when we were talking about Every Breath, we did what was it, Mel? Was it 2 favorite things?
2 stars and a wish. It's a very teacher thing. It's a very primary school teacher thing. But it's basically like 2 of your favorite, 2 things you loved about it, and 1 thing that you'd potentially want to see improved on, or that you didn't like as much or whatever. Yeah, it was me being a teacher and being like, why don't we do this?
But everyone was saying one of their favorite things was the relationship between Rachel and Mycroft. So that made me very happy, because it was just so nice. I was so worried when I recommended this that maybe they wouldn't like it, and I was like, oh, this is like one of my favorite series of all time. What if they don't like it? And then Mel and Lana loved it, so convinced a few other people to pick it up. So it's just nice to have someone other than Angel, who I'm pretty sure other than Angel to rant to.
Yes.
So, it was lovely.
Lovely.
And
look, I still really have a real emotional connection to that series, because it was my first book, and you never really let that one go. I think it was really different too, because it wasn't a standalone, it was a series. So I actually lived with those characters in my head for like 5 years or something.
Wow.
And I really felt like, I was really sad to say goodbye at the end of the series. And Rachel and Mycroft, those crazy kids.
You're not thinking of doing, a Stephanie Meyer or something and bringing what they're like 10 years later, or?
No. I think, look, honestly, Every Breath is probably one of my most successful books. Well, after all this time, it's still one of my most successful books. And I think the people that read it back then, I think they just want to keep it as like a really good memory. And I've had that experience myself of like, I read something way back when, 10 years ago or whatever, and I loved it so much, but would I want to see a continuation of it? No, I would like to just hang on to that memory. So
I'm happy just to reread it again and again and again.
And it was really funny rereading it. It's very Australian, and I was just so happy that I got a chance to really go full ochre Australian with those and there was so much of me in Rachel. She was, in terms of country living and really loving being outside the city and all of those things. So I really it was very hard to say goodbye, and I'm really glad that people are still in love with the characters, and still grateful every day that I would love to talk to my publisher about re-releasing them in that's what I was going to say. you know, like if the 10-year anniversary of Every Breath is actually coming up, I think 2023.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I'm going to talk to my publisher and ask them if they're going to do anything special. What they usually do though is like reissue them with new covers. And I was wondering what you guys thought about that.
I love the covers. I really like the covers.
Yeah.
There's something, especially, I love the cover of Every Breath. It makes me feel, because like I work in the city now, so I go to Flinders Street like every day with work, and now every time that I'm there, I just remember the cover.
It was
like
so
we were talking last time. I have a red hoodie, and we were talking about it, and I was wearing it at the time. So I was gonna cosplay as James. Oh, I have the blue shirt and everything. So I think for every move, I think we were gonna kind of work something out. So maybe this is the three of us.
So maybe I'll say, don't change the covers, just keep the covers as they are.
Yeah, they're really cool. And I mean, obviously it's a bit different with Every Word because we've got Big Ben in the background, but I really like Every Breath and the fact that it is Melbourne in the background. You know, there's something, as an Australian, there's something just so nice.
See that as well.
You rarely see it, even when it's, I think I was talking about this a while ago. It's anyway, it doesn't matter who I was talking with. Even when like so many things are adapted, like Leanne Moradi's Big Little Lies, they're adapted into America. And it's just something nice about being able to look at something and go, I know that place. I've been there.
Yeah. And I noticed even with covers, like I think when, even if a book is set in Australia and it's located within a particular place, like if it's set in Sydney or something like that, there's a reluctance from publishers, I think, to really put some sort of location identifying thing on the cover. You know, they're much more likely to choose a kind of a more neutral cover with figures or something like that.
I was just thinking of Frankie.
Yeah.
From Siobhan Closer, that cover that it's Collingwood, I want to say. It's been a couple of years since I read it.
Yeah.
But it's a very kind of, it's just like the watercolor figure. There's really no you know, there's no this kind of background, this is
features.
Yeah.
I think they do that specifically, I think, to make it more marketable, not just to other people in other states of Australia, but also overseas. So, you know, it's not, I think it was really unusual for Every Breath to have that instantly recognizable feature of, you know, the clocks at Melbourne's in Flinders Street Station in Melbourne. It was kind of unusual for them to have that that picture on the front cover. I haven't really seen that much in other you know, I mean, I don't know if you necessarily have to put something on the front cover. I mean, I guess I've seen a number of books that, like, if it's set in Paris, I'll have the Eiffel Tower, or, you know. I mean,
that is
Every Word has again. But there's, I haven't seen many kind of identifiable Melbourne landmarks on the covers of many books. So it was a bit of a one-off. And I was really surprised by how well people responded. They were really into it. They were like, "Oh, I know this place."
I think it really,
I think it adds something to it. Something.
Yeah. I still like it. I
like it. Don't change them.
Okay. All right.
If they try to, we'll all just show up.
We'll block it.
We'll have a rally. Sign a petition.
We did have a question from Lana, just going back to the drafts. Do you keep your first drafts or second, or however many you do?
That's a really good question. And I am not. Look, everyone's writing process is different, and sometimes your writing process is different for different projects. But generally what I tend to do is write and then edit as I go. So most writers that I know hate it when I say this, but my general process is that the final draft, which is basically the first draft, that's it, you know.
Right.
What I'll do after I finish though is I'll sometimes, like, I might pull a chapter out and make a different version of it, you know, and then I will keep the chapter that I've changed. I'll keep the original in a file on my computer. I do know some writers who do this thing, which I find absolutely terrifying, which is when they have their final draft, then they go through and edit, and then anything that they cut, they just delete it. Which I have never done that. I'm kind of obsessively, well, if I cut something, you know, particularly if it's longer than like a couple of sentences, I will almost certainly have a file, which is just like a Word document where I keep all of my scraps. It's actually what's called my scraps and cuts file. So I'll actually dump everything in there that I cut out. And if there's something particularly useful, I'll highlight it so I can go back and find it later if I need it. But yeah, but basically the short answer is my first draft is my final draft because of my writing process, which is to edit as I go along.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's so weird.
Does that make you a pantser or a planner?
I started off as a pantser. I mean, I wrote the entire Every series as a pantser. Yeah. So, but I've gotten more plotty as I've gone along. And I think that has more to do with, as my plots have become more and more complicated and requiring more and more research, particularly, you know, like Killing Code is set in 1943 and None Shall Sleep is set in 1982. So the more historical research I've had to do, and that has involved me checking up on historical events and, you know, things like that. So I kind of had to keep all of that straight in my head, and it became too difficult for me to do that. So I started noting things down. But I've gotten more plotty as I've gone along. And yeah, I definitely work towards like 3-act structure. And I've read that book, Save the Cat Writes a Novel, which has been really useful actually. There's lots of things in there that I think are really useful, especially for when you're still structuring things, putting things together. But look, you know, no writing advice in the world is going to help if you don't have a clear idea in your own head of who the characters are and what you really want to do with the story. You know, it ultimately comes down to that. So, yeah, everything else is just for naught if you can't get into the head of the characters.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I think that's some good advice. Both Mel and I,
that's great advice.
Write in our free time when we can. So it's always nice to hear like people who actually know what they're doing.
Yes, definitely.
Sort of be like, you know, try this. It's kind of nice to get a different perspective and be like, oh, I haven't thought about doing it that way before. I'm very much a zero draft kind of person. So
a zero draft.
Yeah. And I just write everything and then I fix it.
Look, I actually think that is the best way to start. You know, look, I'm always encouraging my students, because I'm still a teacher, you know, and I'm always encouraging my students and just saying, look, when you first start out writing, it's the hardest thing is actually getting the story out of your head and onto the page. So, you know, the best thing to do is just to stop worrying about structure and don't worry about all of that stuff. Just write without stopping for a certain time period, and then worry about structure and making it pretty and all of that sort of stuff later. You've got to get the story out onto the page before you've got something to work with, you know. Otherwise you can't craft nothing.
Can't craft from nothing.
Yeah, my kind of motto is always it's future Ellie's problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Future Ellie's problem.
Yeah.
And
future Ellie hates you.
Yeah, future Ellie is absolutely hates me.
Especially if future Ellie puts like, write a really cool fight scene here.
Like,
thanks.
Yeah. I've done that in a couple of things where I'll just be like, don't want to do that right now, and I'll write myself like a red.
I'll even write like put something here.
Do something like write this thing, and I'm like, oh, why did I hate you, Pascal. I hate you.
I've reached a point now where I don't tend to put like add this scene here because I kind of know structurally now where I'm going with it, and I know that I have to write it. And I'm also a big like I really have to get this written so I understand what the impact's going to be on their character's state of mind for the next scene. But I do frequently do things like, oh, now they turn the car into X Street. And the description of the street is this. And Ellie, you were saying, you know, fill in this detail later. From Google Maps. Ellie, you were saying, you know, that I know what I'm doing. I can assure you that there are frequently many days still when I feel like I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
That's reassuring as well.
Yeah. It really is.
It's not like you suddenly kind of like, figure out that you're a writer and then you're like, oh, now I'm completely confident in the work that I'm producing. You're still very much with every project and every time you sit down at your computer, you're still kind of going through a bit of a process. Well, I mean, not every day, but there are definitely days when I'm like, I have no idea what's going on here. Why am I writing this?
I feel like sometimes for me, it's that like you're in a situation and you're kind of looking for the adult, and then I realize that I'm an adult.
I need an adult.
I don't know what's happening, and no one else does either.
That's correct. So that is true. And I still get that feeling, and I've got 4 children of my own.
I can imagine that would make it worse somehow. Like, someone get an adult. Oh, crap, I'm the adult and I have to. It's okay.
That particularly occurs at, you know, specific times like tax time and things like that. It's like, can't the adult in the house do this? It's like, no.
You are the adult in the house.
You are the adult. There is no other person. But look, I feel like your process changes too with every project. I think that's something that, you know, I still remind myself about too. Some things come really easily. None Shall Sleep was one of those books that I just seemed to write like automatic writing, you know. It was just that easy. And every word was the same sort of book, actually. I wrote that book in 3 months. It was like, it's the fastest fastest book I've ever written. And it was just like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I just write it out, you know. It's like you're receiving it from some sort of radio signal or something, which is really cool when that happens. And it doesn't hardly ever happen. So, you know, most of the time it's a real struggle. And or rather there is a more complicated process in that, but every word was just like a dream novel to write. And None Shall Sleep was a bit like that too. I really felt instantly like I knew what I was doing, and I knew where I want the story to go for both of those novels, and it was just a matter of writing it down from wherever it was being beamed in from.
Ellie, did you Are you a big fan of Sherlock Holmes? Have you always been a big...
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Sherlock Holmes. I think I read Sherlock Holmes for the first time when I was like 13 or 14. And as soon as I picked up Sherlock Holmes, so I picked up Conan Doyle and Agatha Christie in about the same year at school. And I remember, it was like grade 7 or 8. And I just got completely sucked into Sherlock Holmes. Like once I'd read the first story, I was like, I had to
have to have all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to churn through the entire collection. And I had a really big, thick book, which was the completely collected stories, you know. So I bought that in high school just so I could reread all my favorite ones. My favorite one's probably the Speckled Band. And I also really love Silver Blaze because it's just got a very neat kind of interlocking mystery. And it's a great introduction, I think, for most people to Sherlock Holmes and the whole his whole process and why he's so, you know, why he is the way he is.
Yeah. I have to ask, because I talk about this all the time on my channel. What's your favorite Christie?
Oh, my favorite Agatha Christie.
Yeah.
It's oh God, that's actually really hard. I was always really obsessed with Hercule Poirot. I mean,
yes, I am.
I liked all of the Poirot stories way more than I liked Miss Marple. Miss Marple, I could really take or leave, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was because I read them when I was younger. So the idea of like this strangely odd Belgian kind of detective with all these quirky kind of eccentricities interested me way more than the idea of this like old granny, like a cozy mystery type village. So I was much more interested in Poirot. But I think probably, God, it's been years since I've gone back, but maybe And Then There Were None.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
that or Murder on the Orient Express, I think, is also one of her best.
Murder on the Orient Express is really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, just the way she manages to tie them together. Just
yes. That was like, that's like a genuinely original kind of, I don't know if anybody had ever come up with anything like that before. So that was pretty cool that she did that. But And Then There Were None, for me, is much more sinister. I think the tone of it is just much more kind of ominous. And it was, I think
it was my first of hers too. So it's always a special place in my heart.
Yeah. Cool.
And then you went back to Miss Marple. And then you started Miss Marple. You're like, whoa, she's a really different writer.
Yeah.
I went on to Poirot next, I think. And then, I'm about to start my next one. I'm reading them through in order. So I'm up to Sad Cypress.
Oh, nice.
So I'm very excited.
Really want to get some more Agatha Christie. You know, I have actually always read Agatha Christie from out of libraries, and I don't really have enough of her work on my shelves at home.
I always did too, but now I just use Angel in her bookstore. So
that's handy. That's very handy.
It's handy.
Is it
also not so great because I buy a lot.
Far out. I actually worked at a bookstore when I was in my teens, and we used to get like I think it was we got like next to free books. I think they were like 50% off or 30% off or something. I don't know, but they were really cheap. This is when I was growing up in Brisbane, and I just collected so many books. Like I just had boxes and boxes and boxes of books. And then when I moved from Brisbane down to Melbourne, I had to like cull, like, oh my God, I think I had to get rid of like 2/3 of my book collection, which was horrifying. But I just couldn't shift them all. There was just so many. And a lot of them that I'd bought when I was working as a teenager in this bookstore. It was one of the chain bookstores. I don't even think it's still operating now. But yeah, and it was like in the middle of Brisbane City Mall. And yeah, I mean, we used to get such crappy pay. And I think this was like the consolation prize. Like you really only wanted to work there because the pay was so crummy. You really only wanted to work there for the books.
Cheap books.
Yeah.
Man. Well, look, it's been really good talking to you. I am going to have to go now.
That's okay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's been really amazing.
I'm just so sorry that I had all of these hiccups with internet.
No, it happens all the time.
It happens.
Yeah. Mel and I will be talking all the time, and then one of us will just
freeze
disappear.
or whatever. Yeah, it's fine. It's the nature of these things.
Yeah.
It was. I'm really glad that I finally figured out how to, make it work in the end.
Yeah.
And it was really lovely to be here. So thank you. And
so
thank
nice
you
to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Catch up with me again next September or October next year when the Killing Code comes out. We can chat about that.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Love to. We'll make sure we pick it for that around that time. And then we can read it and talk to you about it. It would be great.
That would be amazing.
Oh, that would be ace. Yeah. I hope you like it.
Yeah. I'm sure we will.
I'm sure we will.
All right.
Perfect.
I'll see you later.
Thank you, Ellie.
Bye.
Have a good week. Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Oh,
okay.
That was amazing.
Well, yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to say about Every Word?
Not really. I just really enjoyed it.
I think it's just Lana that's with us. So.
Oh, hi, Lana.
But some people might rewatch it back.
That's true.
So if you did, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Next month, I'm sorry if you can hear Fletch in the background using his litter, but
can't hear anything.
Okay, good, because I was like, oh, that's a bit yuck. No. Next month is, of course, Every Move, and we'll be on Lana's channel, hopefully. If not, on Mel's.
Yes, but hopefully Lana's, but if not, we'll go
hopefully Lana's, if not Mel's. And we will also be doing our trivia. Which should be exciting.
And so, we will have a prize.
We will have a prize. I mean, we can tell them what the prize is.
We can.
The prize will be the US version, which is just literally just smaller, of None Shall Sleep.
Woohoo! Very exciting.
Yeah, so it'll just be a normal size paperback, but this is the one that came out when it came out last year. So it'll be the normal size. But I think that's everything. And we will see you all next time. And I have a bunch of questions to ask you after this. So we'll just end it here. And they're not scary, I promise. So we'll catch you all next time. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Wait, the button's not